Here we are at Radio Festival 2011, and I'm joined to talk about local radio by David Holdsworth, who's the controller of BBC English Regions. David, you took part in quite a lively session, I guess, this morning about the death of local radio. A little bit controversial, perhaps, but is it dead? Is it still alive and kicking?
It's a slightly frustrating title. It's a title I've lived with for 2 or 3 years now, and I don't think it's dead at all. I think it's alive and thriving. There is, of course, quite a lot of debate about our current proposals to make the new licence fee settlement work, and local radio will be a little bit different as a result of us taking some savings out. But I'm sure it's still got a very bright future. We're going to be investing in our peak time programmes, making sure that the place where most of our audience and most of our distinctiveness is still thriving.
You were on a panel with people from across the commercial radio sector, commercial local radio, and we saw some examples of some of the work that they're doing. How much do you see commercial local radio as a threat or as an opponent? Are they competing with you?
No, I'd celebrate all local radio, whether it's commercial or BBC, as being a contribution to community life. And in the main, what commercial radio are doing is quite different, and you are comparing something that is pretty different when it comes to what we're doing. So our remit is about speech, it's about distinctiveness, it's about serving communities with debate and information. So all speech breakfast shows, drive time speech shows, sport, a commitment to specialist journalism, a commitment to lower league football as well as the big clubs, regular faith programmes, the BBC introducing Strand for new bands. There's a whole range of public service missions which we carry out.
And one of the things the Director General mentioned in his keynote address earlier today at the festival was that while the percentage of cuts perhaps under DQF for local radio is lower than the average, the effect might be bigger because of the fact that you don't share buildings as much within the sector, and you've got costs that you can't pull out.
Yeah, and he's right about that, and that's why really this debate is now happening. So yes, the target, about 12% for local radio, is lower than the BBC average, but played out on the ground it feels nearer to 20% for many of my teams, and that's why we're hearing some of the comments about what this might mean for the size of the workforce in the different radio stations. And I have to say, just to finish the point, I am really heartened by the level of debate that has ensued and the way that so many people have come forward really to fight the corner of a local radio generally, just as well as BBC local radio.
And just finally, what the Director General also alluded to this morning was that John Myers is going to come in and have a look at BBC local radio and how it can perhaps do things a little bit different. He's got a lot of experience in the commercial sector. He's done a report already for network radio. What do you want to see come out of that? Or you're keeping a bit of an open mind about what John might find? Yes,
well, I've been talking to John now for 2 or 3 weeks, and basically we want to commission him to look at our current remit and whether he can find ways that we might deliver that more efficiently. So it's not about is the local radio remit right, it's about, given the commitment to those public service functions, can he see any clever ways, given his wide experience in the industry, that we might organise ourselves a little bit more efficiently or find a clever way of perhaps fixing our back offices together in a way that we haven't thought of. And I think at this point, I'm not going to underestimate the task. It's a tough task that we have to set about now in terms of finding these savings. John just might be able to help us a bit.
Okay, thanks for talking to us, David.
Pleasure.